Looks like we're coming up on another beautiful weekend in Florida, and we're going to go out to the Space Coast over on Cocoa Beach, Florida, to talk to Marc Krsek. Marc is a fishing instructor. He's a pro staffer for Banks Lures, and as we just found out today, he's also a pro staffer for Procure. Fantastic bait scent company. I use it all the time. I think anybody that fishes uses it all the time, so we're really happy to announce that Marc's going to be doing some pro rep work for them. And we're going to not waste any time. Let's go out to the Space Coast and talk to Marc Krsek and find out what's going on with the big redfish out there. With Marc Krsek from the Space Coast of Florida, beautiful Cocoa Beach, Florida. I've been watching his Facebook posts, and just beautiful, gigantic redfish. You know, Marc's all over the place. He's a kayak fisherman. He fishes the flats. He fishes all kinds of nice areas around Cocoa Beach and Banana River, Mosquito Lagoon, the whole area up there. And we're going to talk to Marc a little bit this morning about these gigantic reds. You know, I was just mentioning to him that he catches big reds and giant reds. And so Marc's going to talk to us a little bit about, what he's doing, where they're at, and how it works. So Marc, let you take it, bud.
Yeah, it's a little more challenging to get on them in the paddlecraft. And the mullet are coming back strong, and they're basically on a fin fish diet, mullet, white baits. So anything you throw at them that imitates those two is a great choice this time of year. And shrimp imitate, get in position, slowly get the right angles. And if you do that and they don't know you're there, they're going to eat. You're going to find fish. We got big trout right now. The big trout bite is off the hook. Top waters are a great choice to throw at them. Banks Fender Walker is what I throw at them. And they throw it 2-3 feet in the air. It's a great lure. And then the sun kind of comes up and the top water bite dies off. That's basically it. I mean, big reds they're coming back a little stronger right now, better numbers with the heat kicking in, and they're feeding a lot more aggressively than they were during the winter time, because when we get the hot water, their metabolism just kicks up, and we got a lot of mullet coming back on the flats, and so they're picking out on the mullet. We got white bait coming in, they're hitting that too. So, basically if you throw any kind of imitation of a mullet or a white bait, that's a great choice this time of year. And it doesn't really matter where you go here on the Space Coast. I mean, there's fish everywhere. You're going to find them no matter where you go. Just kind of pick your spots wisely based on the wind. And just get out there, and you want to be, if you're in a kayak or canoe, you definitely want to be standing up, poling around if possible, always looking. You can get them blind casting, but I find it's better to just get up there and search them out and find them that way. We got big trout right now. Big trout are on fire. Everybody that's throwing top waters is getting big trout. I like to throw the Banks Fender Walker at them. And they're going to be on the flats, and anywhere you got bait and a good flat with some grass and some potholes, you're most likely going to find large trout, and some of them are over 10 pounds right now.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, that's a slab of a trout. And the black drum, they're kind of going away right now. We had them all through April, but the heat's really kicking up, and they're just kind of few and far between now. You might get lucky and find a few small ones. But as far as the big ones, they're off deep. They're going to spend the summer deep, and as soon as it cools off again, they're going to come back on the flats.
Sure.
That's it. It doesn't really matter where you go this time of year. The Mosquito Lagoon, the Indian River, the Banana River, it's all got fish in it. As long as you find a good flat, just got a good concentration of bait on it, most likely you're going to find fish.
Well, I'll tell you what, you were mentioning the, using the white bait and some of the black baits, black top baits, I should say. They're the silver shiny little sardines. And I was looking at these Banks baits. He has these minnows. I saw them on his Facebook site. And I'll tell you, I mean, they have a black top, a silvery belly, and they have a red gill line. And he actually, it looks like he dipped the tail in chartreuse. And they're just beautiful. I mean, talk about imitating the local bait. This looks exactly like the bait that I saw jumping all around our boat when we were out there trying to fish the Mayaca cutoff over here. And this is honestly, I mean, these baits with that little light green and the black going into green into silver is exactly what all the fish were going after. I mean, they were just going crazy all around the boat after these suckers. Now that's a nice bait. How you doing with those with the flats creeper and with these minnows?
Well, the minnows, there's two styles. There's the mangrove mercenary and the dock boss, and the difference between the two is that the Dock Boss has a little, the tail is molded differently to kind of resemble a shrimp.
Uh-huh.
So depending on how you manipulate the lure, you can make it look like a mullet or a minnow or a shrimp. And then, if you want to make it look like a shrimp, you kind of want to do deliberate, sharp, upward twitches. So it kind of looks like a shrimp popping up out of the grass. Like
Oh,
the fish
sure,
scooped
yeah.
it up out of the grass, and that kind of triggers a reaction strike because they want to suck it down before he goes back in the grass and hides.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've got that to your advantage. And if you want to make it look like a finger mullet, you do shorter twitches, more frequent. And what it does with a weighted swim bait hook, it will walk the dog, just like a topwater, but underwater on the bottom. And it looks great. And, it's minimal effort on your part. You just twitch, and that thing just darts from side to side, and it looks like a panicked mullet that doesn't know where to go. And, to a fish, that's an easy meal, and they usually whack it.
Oh yeah, I could see that. It's a beautiful looking bait, the Dock Boss. I could see with the shrimp action, like you say, with that thumping. Anybody that's ever been diving and swam up and started messing with a little shrimp underwater, you could actually hear them go, thump, 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 when they start thumping their tail. And yeah, I could see where that action would be beautiful on that bait. I like that. And like I said, now this Flats Creeper minnow, this is beautiful. I'm looking at the one, I'm looking at the colors that he has on his website. But the picture that he has on his Facebook site, if you go to Facebook and look up Ricky E. Banks, he has some pictures of these new minnows. I believe he's probably tested them now or playing with them right now. But I'm not sure if he has them ready to sell or not yet. But if he does, these are going to be hot because they are beautiful. This is a lot of thought went into making this bait.
Definitely. And we're always playing with colors and putting our heads together trying to come up with different colors. And he does do custom colors. So if you get with him, he'll mold basically whatever you want. He'll color match what you want. But as far as the colors go, they all work. It's basically based on water conditions and the Flats Creeper, and that's what I've been mainly using. That's what I got that bigger red earlier in the week on. He was 42 inches. And actually, I missed the fish when I cast on him. I was wide left by about 15 feet, and he still came out of that hole and smashed that thing. And so, that's pretty cool. You can still miss a fish, and it's got so much flash and action that they'll still hit it. But it's a great lure. I've been using it like a spoon lately. You can twitch them off the bottom and jig them around. That works too. But I've been using like a spoon, kind of like a search bait, and just firing it out there and reeling it straight back to me. No jigging, no nothing, just a straight retrieve. And you'll pick off fish that you didn't even see were there with that thing.
Oh, very good. And I'm even looking at this one. I think you referred to it as the Jacksonville Creeper. And it's one that he's designing now, or he just released. And the action. Looking at it, it has the shine of a spoon, and because he has all that laser cut angle in the bait itself, I could see how the reflection of that thing, just like you said, the regular action of the tail wiggling around, coming back to you, would definitely light up the water. You'd definitely get some attraction.
That laser cut is when because it's got a subtle little wobble to it when you're retrieving it, and when the light is rolling over those ridges, it's casting it at different directions, and it's really putting some flash off in that tail. That's why we call it the creeper, because you can creep it as slow as you want, but that tail still kicks. And I've had schools of finger mullet following the lure back to the boat. That's amazing. I've never had that happen with another lure. So it's a really good imitation. And like I said, there's a couple different ways you can use it. There's a couple different hook styles you can use. You always want to use a 5/0 hook, at least a 5/0, but you can play with different weights. If you want to fish it higher in the water column, use a 1/32 ounce swim bait hook to a 1/16 ounce in that size range, and it'll stay higher in the water column. And if you retrieve it fast enough, it'll actually come up on the top, and that tail will actually act as somewhat of a buzz bait. And I've had them slap it just like a topwater. And if you want to fish it lower in the water column, like the big reds I've been dealing with, they're in 4 feet of water and they're holding the bottom. So if you've got a lure that's on the top, they're obviously not going to see it. So you got to go with a little bit of heavier hook, a 1/4 ounce to even up to 1/2 ounce swim bait hooks, which are kind of hard to find. But if you a 1/4 ounce, they're kind of a common hook, and that will keep it on the bottom and keep it in the strike zone. The main thing is keeping it in the strike zone based on your depth. But with the 1/4 ounce hook, You can it fishes on the bottom with slow retrieve, and actually when you look at it, it makes little puffs of sand, kind of like a pinfish or just a bait fish does when they scoot around the bottom. You'll see them make little puffs of sand. So it's really an accurate portrayal of what they're eating.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a versatile bait. I mean if you could switch hooks, use the same bait, and throughout the day as the sun's coming up and going down, go from the top and mimic an injured minnow on the top, or go down to the bottom and mimic like you say, a minnow popping around and darting around on the bottom. Incredible bait. Like I said, they're just beautiful to look at. I mean they actually look real. I mean they look like shiny little minnows. Just beautiful job. The engineering behind these is incredible. So awesome.
The profile of the creeper is perfect. If you catch a finger mullet and you hold about a 4-inch finger mullet next to it, the girth is just about the same, and it looks, I mean, it's spot on, and it can also imitate a white bait, And the colors, you'll see the colors on the website. They don't really do it justice. When you get it in your hands and then you actually see it in the water with the sun shining through it, the colors are just amazing.
Absolutely.
And you want to pick your colors based on the water condition. I like to fish lighter stuff in clean water and full sun conditions. If it's dirty, murky, or overcast, I'll use like a white or a darker color to match because what bait fish are doing, everything out there is kind of trying to blend into its environment a little bit. That's natural for the predators. They blend in. The bait blends in to kind of hide for the predators. So you kind of want to match what the fish are actually seeing, and their prey is trying to blend in to the environment. So you kind of want to pick a lure that blends into the environment. That's the rule of thumb. And he's got every color to do that with. He's got a color for every condition. So there's no shortage of colors. And like I say, you can make customs, which anything you got like a special color that you can color match. You can send him a picture, he'll match it and mold you up whatever you want.
Oh, it's beautiful. And like I said, these ones I'm looking at on his Facebook site are like you said, match the color of the water, the conditions of the water. And right now around the Peace River, the Myakka River, Charlotte Harbor, once we start getting these afternoon rains, all that fresh water starts flooding out of the freshwater overflows up the river. And the water starts to get we get a tea color until we get out toward the blue water around Boca Grande. And it actually gets that greenish beige tint to it the way these baits have to them. And it goes from a silvery, that red eye and the red underbelly and the red gill mark goes into a silver and then into a greenish and then a darker black color into the chartreuse tail. And it's a perfect match for what we're doing around here. They're just beautiful baits. So yeah, awesome, man.
If your tea-colored water is actually not that bad, if you just pick a little bit of a darker bait with a little bit of flash in it, you'd be good to go. But see, on the Space Coast here, we don't get tea-colored water, we get tea soup. I mean, we get bad algae blooms ever since the freeze of 2010. We've been getting these hellacious algae blooms, and it gets to where you can't see 6 inches under the surface, and then you need something with some good flash and some vibration, and that flat screeper throws off a lot of vibration through the tail. And that's you just kind of want to play the conditions. That's the biggest thing.
Oh yeah, and it works too, and I'm glad you said that about the vibration through the tail. And I'm not against them or anything. There's a lot of noisemakers out there. There's a lot of jig heads, hooks, stuff that have little rattles on them, and they work. Drawing attention to anything works. But the truth of the matter is, when you want to get down to the natural, movement of the fish and the sound and the vibration of the water, when you have a tail like these have and they're moving through the water, they're creating a vibration or a wave in the water that's natural. And let's be honest here. Most of those little shakers and rattlers and hook beads, they may work sometimes, but they're not really that natural sounding. So they can get attention if the water's really dark and you really need to draw attention to them. But when you have a natural bait like this that's engineered to mimic the sound of a minnow swimming through the water, and even worse, even better, I should say, an injured minnow moving through the water, you've really got a good bait there. And the fish are going to hear what they expect to hear, and they're going to go after it. So they're not going to sit around and go, "What's that?" And let's be honest here. If I'm pulling a minnow through the water and I make it sound like a shrimp, it's going to throw the fish a little bit. It's gonna, it's just not going to be right. And so having the bait that actually makes the sound that you want it to make with the tail that's engineered to make that sound, would definitely be the way to go. And so it's a greatly and beautifully engineered bait.
It is. I mean, it's when you get it past the fish and it's moving away from them at a high rate of speed. I mean, 90% of the time since I've been using it, they come out of their skin to whack it. They think that's the real deal and it's getting away, and they will just come hammer it. It's like I said, you can miss the fish by 15 feet and they still notice it. It's a great bait. I mean, and like I say, there's several different ways you can use it. I've been using it as a search bait lately. It's awesome, effective in that. I've also throwing it at a fish that I've sighted up, so it's got a few different applications. And Ricky has more than just soft baits. He's also got a line of hard baits, great top waters. They're solid wood, You got the plastic top waters. You get 8 or 10 good reds on them. They're cracked and they're taking on water and then they're ruined. With the wooden lures, they're so much more durable. The fish aren't going to crack it. All the threads are definitely going to hold. And it's just a great bait. He's got it with rattles and without rattles. And see, sometimes you don't want the rattles. Like if you're in slick calm conditions, you want a more subtle approach. No rattles. That's kind of more natural. If it's slick calm and there's nothing going on around them and they hear that baby rattle coming out, and most of the times they're going to ignore it. Now, if you got heavy chops, then you want your rattles, and then you want to work it a little bit faster to make it a little bit more promotion to get it noticed in the more turbulent conditions. So he's got a top water for all occasions. He's got the micro pogey, which is it comes in. He's got the micro, which is I think 3-inch, and then I think a 4-inch. It's a lipped hard bait, and they're all solid wood. And it's got such a tight wobble to it, and you can use it on the flats. It's a treble hooked bait. You can use it over the grass flats because it only runs just less than a foot under the surface.
Oh, very nice.
And man, it's flashy, and that tight wobble, I mean, it just entices the fish to come up out of their hole and whack it.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. You know what? When you're playing with the lip baits that run shallow, when you're going over the flats, the flash that they produce. Now, I've always liked the scale design on his hard baits, because the way the scale design is, and as you say, the lure itself gets a wobble or it kind of flips left, right as it's coming towards you. It creates a really nice flash because the lure turns sideways and the eye actually points a little bit down and then back up at the sun. And when you have this kind of a scale pattern, especially with the red colors, I like the red head, white body design on that because it's just absolutely beautiful. And once you get that red blinking, you're going to be on fish, and just kind of shines throughout the flats to get some attention.
Yep, with the pokey and the scaled sides, there's a couple different ways you can fish it. You can do a straight retrieve back to you and it gets a really tight wobble, but if you twitch and pause, that's when you start getting that darty action, and it kind of goes from side to side and walks the dog, and sometimes it'll even turn around 180 degrees. It's got a wide range of rotation, and with the scale, like the scale pattern that he does on the sides, catches the light just perfect, and it really casts off some good flash.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Even the mangrove minnow I'm looking at, that was right underneath it on the website. To have something, a nice long bait, 4.5 inch, and even has a 6-inch that he said he's developing now for larger game fish. When you're running next to the mangroves with it, even a chartreuse bait that has that shiny scale, kind of chrome reflection to it, it's just very effective. Very nice looking bait too.
Well, this whole line of baits catch fish, and they're engineered here in Florida by local fishermen to catch our fish and catch fish abroad. He's got them. He's got people in Texas that are fishing with them and just stomping the big trout with them. And they're great lures. You can't go wrong no matter what you're throwing. If you're over grass flats, you need to fish the bottom. You definitely have to go weedless. So with the Dock Boss and the Mangrove Mercenary, they come in a 4-inch and a 5-inch. With the 4-inch, I recommend a 3/0 twist lock hook. From 1/32 ounce to 1/16 ounce. And then if you jump up to the 5-inch plastic, I would go with a 5/0 hook, kind of put the hook point back in the bait a little farther to kind of avoid the short strikes, and you want to use the same weight on those. And with the creeper, you definitely want to use a 5/0 at a minimum of 5/0. And like I said earlier, you can play with the weights. You can use a lighter weight to keep it higher in the water column, or you can use a heavier weight. So really, that's especially helpful in the wind when you got to punch through the wind, a heavier weight. And that will keep it fishing lower in the water column, and especially for big reds that are usually holding the bottom, they're designed to look down. So if you've got something that's just flying over their head, most of the times they're not going to notice it. So you want to get it down on their level where they can see it. So you got to play with the weights and play with your different retrieve styles. There's really no bad way to retrieve them. The biggest thing is just get out there with the lures, try them out, see what works, see what you like, what looks good, and basically that's all. You'll find a pattern that they like, and you'll be hooking up left and right with these lures.
Very nice, very nice. Well, let me ask you something. I'm going fishing this afternoon, and I'm going to be fishing in a very, 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 very hot afternoon. It's supposed to be like 90 out there, 91 where we're at, and I'm going to be looking at an outgoing tide from a really high tide. And I'm going to be fishing for these big snook that keep hiding up underneath the mangroves in the shadows that don't want to come out and have their picture taken. So what would you advise that I would do? Now, I know I'm on the Gulf Coast, so it's a little bit different than the Atlantic, but you're just too good of a fisherman for me not to ask for some advice. So what do you think?
Well, as far as, like, now, if you had some Banks lures, he has a color called Gun Glow.
Uh-huh.
And it's a glowing color, you know, but it's got a kind of a more of a blue hue to it rather than like a radioactive green like you see with most glow colors.
Uh-huh.
And so when you're flipping that under the shadows, you know, it's dark under there, so that thing lights up and it looks awesome and it looks natural, just like what they're seeing in those dark shadows. Get it up in there as far as possible because they're not gonna. Most of the time they don't want to leave the shadow line, and if they do, it's only going to be for just a second. They're going to go right back in. And so the name of the game is just getting it up under there.
Well, I see that. I'm looking at it now, the Gun Glow, and that's a beautiful. It's a soft bait. It looks like a white, like you say, a glowing color, but it's got a beautiful deep red and deep red black eye center on it that would really stand out underwater. Beautiful. Now, what do you say now? This is probably the 5 1/4 inch, the bigger one, and you say use a 5/0 hook with that?
Yep. If you're going to go with the bigger one, you want to use a 5/0 to get that hook point farther back in the bait to avoid the short strikes. Yeah, that glow color. I mean, it's such a subtle. It's not most glows when you look at it. It's just bright green and really loud, and that works sometimes, but it's not as natural as Ricky's color. His glow is when you take it, when you buy them, take them in your house, shut the lights off and look at them, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I know exactly what you're saying. They absorb light, then radiate a little bit when it gets dark, and yeah, very nice, beautiful bait. Well, if you get a pack of 12, what's that last you out there on the flats?
He gave me that we got a color called the Marc Krsek Special, and I've caught 6 fish off it, and the last fish I caught off it was that 42 incher. And it's still on my hook. I mean, I'm still throwing that same original bait that he gave me in that color on the Flats Creeper. So I mean, they're pretty durable. They'll last you. It all depends on what you're fishing for. If you're fishing for toothy stuff, like jacks and things like that, they really tear your baits up. They're not gonna last as long. But reds, they usually just inhale it and suck it down in one shot, so they're not really chewing on it and tearing it up. So, I mean, it all depends on what you're fishing for, but, I mean, like I say, I've had that one lure. It's still going strong after 6 fish, including a 42-inch red. So, the durability is definitely there.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, if you're playing with the same bait after pulling in a red like that, you got a quality bait there. So, yeah, definitely. Well, that's great. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I've always liked all Banks products. I mean, their soft baits are great. The hard baits are great. We've been fishing so many different baits, it's hard to get down and play with just one for the whole day, but that's what we're going to start doing here the next couple of months. And we're just going to get something, like you said, with whether it's a top walker, whether it's a soft bait or something. I like the Gun Glow in all the Flats Creeper series. I mean, those minnows are beautiful. I can't wait to get that color he's got, that minnow color on his Facebook page. I mean, it's just incredible, that silvery green and right to chartreuse, the little red belly, the red gill mark, just great bait. So I'm looking forward to trying those too. So that's great, Mark. I mean, really, you're having pretty good fishing luck out there. You're saying there's some big reds flying around the flats. Now, what are you doing now? Are you seeing schools still, or are you out there hunting for them in the mangroves and looking for them now?
I'm out there on the open flats, and there are still some schools around. I mean, that will kind of get less frequent as our water rises because we're getting pretty steady south winds. I think we're going to have a week of south winds, and that's going to drive the water levels up in our area. And then, they kind of spread out a little bit because you've got newly flooded areas that they can go check out, and they're not tightly concentrated with the low water. So look for that. There's, like I said, there's still schools around. I've been finding schools of, several hundred fish, which is, that's pretty big for this time of year.
That's beautiful.
And I've been finding everything from schools of several hundred to small groups of 10 to singles and doubles. I mean, they're out and about here right now. And like I say, it really doesn't matter where you go. I mean, as long as you're somewhat out of the wind, that's definitely going to help you. And as long as you're on a flat with a good concentration of bait, that's basically all it takes around here.
Oh, sure. Now, the schools, are you seeing those really more in the morning and the evening time, and everything's going into hiding from the sun, or about what times are you seeing this? Kind of that.
What I've been doing the past 2 days when I went out there, you really want to watch the weather and kind of get out there while it's you can catch fish in the wind, but it's much easier and they're much more cooperative when you've got a light wind to no wind. They're a little more spooky when it's glassy calm and you kind of got to keep your distance a little more, but they're still pretty agreeable. But I've been going out. I haven't been hitting the water till about 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of catching that little lull in the wind. We kind of get windy in the morning, and then in the afternoon it drops out for about 2 hours. And that's I've been seeing schools basically in the middle of the day. It's noontime, sun right over your head, and they're still out there eating. And at one point on the Tuesday, I had probably 40 fish around me tailing, and they were all over slots, and they were happy.
Beautiful.
And that was the middle of the day. I started looking around. I didn't find anything in the clean stuff, in the clean water, and then I started seeing it murk up a little bit, and then there was grass floating everywhere, and I thought, well, hell, maybe there's some manatees in here. But no, it turned out it was about 50 reds, from 30 to 40 inches, just down there tailing in the grass, rooting everything up.
Beautiful.
They look like they kind of look like manatees.
Boy, they keep you coming back when you see that. That's awesome. Everything we're seeing here, and probably because being on the Gulf Coast, our water's a little bit more shallow than you are over there, and so everything's just in hiding. It was, even a few weeks ago, I go rolling up on the flats, and you'd see a school of big reds, kind of take off. And now you really got to get up in the mangroves on high tide and really look for them now on this coast. So, in fact, most of them, are eating, the rockfish, the baby rockfish, the rock crabs, fiddler crabs, the baby blue claws. So, they're up in the mangroves getting all that now. But boy, I'll tell you what, I'd love to come out on that coast and catch some of those big suckers.
Well, anytime you're ready, buddy, I'll take you out there and put you on one. Can't guarantee you they'll eat, but we'll find them.
Yeah, you're gonna have to take me out there and teach me how to catch them. It's
big reds are not easy to catch, as everybody thinks. I mean, some days they'll just annihilate anything you put in front of them, and some days they'll just deny you over and over. And the day I got that 42-inch on Monday, I saw several dozen fish in that range. And just they were just being real tough, and that was the only one I got to eat all day. It was a chunk, but you really got to have patience. You got to work on your angles. You got to get the broad side of that bait in front of the fish's face. If it's coming straight in his face, he's never going to go for it, because in the natural world, a mullet never runs down a 40-inch red.
Sure.
So there's a lot that goes into getting one of those big reds to eat, and it really helps having the Banks lures because they look so natural. As long as you got your angle right, usually they'll come out of their skin to hit that thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mark's halfway right there. Banks lures will work, but you gotta follow it up with somebody that knows what they're talking about, like Mark. And he really knows his business. When you're talking about catching big red fish, you're talking about fishing, whether it's a Space Coast or the rest of Florida. We're catching some of the same fish in slightly different waters. And, the basic ideology is the same. And, Mark has the Space Coast fishing class, and he teaches people how to fish and catch these gigantic fish. And so, if you go into Facebook, or if you Google it, you look for Space Coast fishing class, you'll find Marc Krsek. And you can even go to our website, fishyfins.com, and click on Mark's channel on the left side and go right into his Facebook page and his class page. So really great information. The guy's a smart guy. He catches, huge bass. I saw Sam has you as a nominated for the biggest redfish for this year, I noticed. So that's awesome. Congratulations on that too, bud.
The scary thing about that fish is that's not even a really big one around here.
He always says that.
There's fish that are over 50 inches around here, and they are, when you see them, they're just, you're amazed. they're buses down there, man. They're huge.
Oh, it's
I had
incredible.
one that was in the 50-inch range that I spooked on Tuesday, and he actually went under the canoe and drummed when he went under the canoe.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm telling you, the whole canoe vibrated. I felt it through my feet. I mean, it was King Kong, man. And they're out there with regularity in this area. They're always here year round. They spawn in here. They never leave. You know, some of the Banana River ones will leave. They'll go through the locks and out in the ocean, but they bounce back and forth. But for the most part, all of our big breeder reds, they live here year round, and you got a year round chance to go get them. And you don't have to have anything fancy. You know, I've got a $100 canoe that I fish out of, and you know, I put trophies in it regularly. So it goes to show you that you don't need, you know, it's nice to have a boat, but it's not a necessity around here. There's so many good launch points that, you know, you can go out there with a canoe or a kayak and a handful of lures and a rod, and you know, potentially put a trophy in the boat at any time during the year.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, I've watched you for some time here now, and out of all the pictures I see coming in, you've got the biggest reds over there that are getting photographed. I hear a lot of stories, and matter of fact, I've got a guy giving me a story right now about some bait here in Florida. I told him he's full of shit, and I said, you know, show me the pictures, show me the photos. I'll come out with my camera and my video camera, and I'll tape it. So, you know, let's see it. And Mark, you know, you just the biggest, most beautiful reds, beautiful fish. And, you know, he always downplays. He's like, oh, well, you know, I'm just using a little canoe, and I'm just, you know, they're little red. They're huge reds. And he's got that thing set up beautifully.
They're definitely solid fish, but like I say, man, some of the fish you'll see here are just amazing. I mean, they're huge. I mean, it's like, you know, what am I going to do when I hook this thing now? I'm going to be busy for the next hour.
Well, you know what, folks? You can come to Florida, and you can go to Disney, and you can go to Universal, and they have all these weird rides, and you can have a good time and see all this stuff. Or you can get out there and go fishing and have a gigantic monster red get underneath your boat and shake the whole thing. Now that's a special effect that I can enjoy.
Hell yeah.
I can enjoy it. Well, Mark, I tell you what, I know you're getting ready to go fishing. I've got to get my stuff strung up. I'm getting ready to head out myself and do a little fishing. But I sure do appreciate it. It's always a great report from Mark. He's coming from the Space Coast of Florida. Again, Space Coast Fishing Class. Facebook, Google it. Mark, I'll let you finish up and give yourself a little kick about your fishing class and about banks, lures, and what we need to do to catch big fish.
Yep, Space Coast Fishing Class, .weebly.com, or you could just Google Space Coast Fishing Class and you'll find my Facebook page and the website. Bankslures.com, you know, like I say, anything, if you can't find your color on there, send him your idea and a little color to go off of, and he can match it for you. Shallow Angler magazine, that's a great magazine, you know, and it kind of keys in here in the Brevard area. So if you're interested in the Space Coast and what's going on here, that's a great little publication to read. I think last month they got over 1 million views or something crazy like that. So it's a great magazine. The samsite.com, and that's it.
Yeah, they do. Sam's a great magazine. Shallow Addiction, if you're into shallow water fishing, they cover some great stuff. They got a lot of Mark stuff in there, a couple of other pro staffers up and down the coast of Florida. And, you know, Mark, again, we sure appreciate it. Marc Krsek, we appreciate Banks Lures for giving us a great bait and some great engineering and some great information. And, you know, Mark, we'll talk to you again in about a week or so, bud. I'm going to be looking for those gigantic fish, and we've got some cameras coming, some video cameras. So we're going to be sending Mark out a high-definition video camera. And if I could get him not to take pictures of his favorite fishing spot's background so that we could use the video. Nobody wants us to give up their fishing spots. That's the hardest part about using video. So we're going to try to get this worked out so we can get some great video without people having to give up their favorite, hottest fishing spots. So we're going to have that out to you pretty soon there, Mark.
We're going to play with some angles, and we're going to get you some really good video.
Awesome, man. We sure appreciate it. Hey, you guys have a great day out there fishing, and we'll talk to you in about a week.
Thank you, buddy. You do the same.
Hey, bye-bye now.
Well, it's always a great show with Mark. I love talking to him. You know, he's a real smart guy. He can really teach you how to get on those big fish. And, you know, when you're out there catching them and you're good enough to get on top of a fish and it starts bouncing your boat around, you really know where the big red fish are. So, you know, you get a chance, you know, Mark's got a great class. Check out bankslures.com. The baits he uses Banks Lures baits, just fantastic baits. They've got great soft baits, great hard baits, and as you can see from Mark's pictures, they work, and they work well. So really great information. We sure appreciate it, Mark. Check out his website, also his Facebook site. You can go to fishyfins.com. On the left side, click on Marc Krzek's channel, and you can go to all of his links through there. You can check out Banks Lures. You can buy them online, have them made, designed any way you want them. Really cool setup. So check that out when you get a chance, Mark. We sure appreciate it. Banks Lures, we appreciate it. Procure, sure appreciate it. And we're going to be back to you here real soon with another fishing report from the Space Coast. We also have Tampa coming up, Charlotte Harbor coming up, Lee County, Fort Myers, the Caloosahatchee, Ponderosa, up and down the coast, and we're getting around to the other coast too. So we're going to be adding the Miami area really quick, and Boynton Beach, and all the way up to the Space Coast where Mark is. And hopefully we'll be jumping into Jacksonville pretty soon, make it all the way up to Georgia just about. We have been talking to some people out in Texas and Louisiana, so if all goes well, we'll have a couple of pro staffers from those waters talking about how different baits work there. So we sure appreciate it, Mark. You have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here again real quick. Remember, if you're out there, you're fishing, you see me come up on a boat, I got a mic, I got a camera, I'm asking questions, just be cool and give me a fish story. I'd sure appreciate it, and we'll use it to make you famous. Have a great day out there fishing.